All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Parent Month panel discussion. I will be your moderator for this session, and we are here as the Beulah All-Age School family with our presentation and one of our Parent Day activities. Today at Beulah All-Age, we are celebrating it as Parent Day, as one of the day in a month-long celebration of Parent Month activities. Our panel discussion this morning will be on the theme for Parent Month, which is positive parenting impacting generations. The objectives for our panel discussion is 1, that we will enable parents to raise children who are self-aware and confident. 2, foster civic-minded, culturally aware, hardworking, productive, creative, disciplined, and respectful children. 3, to transmit social norms and values that are positive to their children. 4, to cultivate nation builders, leaders, responsible citizens, and as parents to be model citizens, and also to self-assess their parenting efforts, and finally to raise functional adults who can take care of themselves and make a positive contribution to society. Now, before we get into our discussion, I want to remind us that the Bible states that parenting is a privilege. And as parents, we should set the examples and we should not provoke our children to wrath, especially, and in turn, our children will obey us. Now, if we follow Proverbs, we can't be wrong. For years, we have always been hearing that there is no manual for parenting. But can I tell you, even though you can't go into the store and pick up a manual that says how to be a parent, the good old book, the good old Holy Bible is to be our guide. So to kick off our discussion, I'm going to ask this pertinent question. What is good parenting all about? Because you have parents and we have parents. Now we want to know what good parenting is about. And I'm going to start off by asking Mrs. Katie Miles Campbell. But before I ask Mrs. Katie Miles Campbell, please forgive me for not introducing our panel this morning. You know, getting so excited to just jump right into this discussion. So on our panel this morning, we have Mrs. Katie Miles Campbell, who is a retired educator and a social media friend of our school, Beulah All-Age. We have Camelia Ewers, who is the vice principal at Denby Primary. We have Mr. Glenroy Osborne, who is a parent. We have Mrs. Carolisa Wigan-Wellington, who is a guidance counselor at Crosskeys High School in Manchester. We have Mr. Idi Amin Cowan, teacher at Beulah All-Age, parent of 2. We have Mrs. Kadeen McFarlane, vice principal at Beulah All-Age and parent. And we should have our chairman of the school board, Pastor Miguel Baker, who is also a parent. So, Mrs. Campbell, what is good parenting all about?
Good morning. I must tell you that I'm so very happy that you have invited me to be a part of this session. Of course, you know that I am a big fan of Beulah All-Age. I mean, I am. Yes. You know that, and I'm so pleased as an educator and as a parent that you have done so much to engage our children, particularly at this time. So as you heard, I am a retired educator. I am also a parent and grandparent, and I have a foster son who is 6. And all 3 parenting skills have been different and have been challenging. So for me, when you ask, what is good parenting skills all about? And what is good parenting all about? I would say that good parenting is seen in the results. And some people would say to me, but Some persons will say, I'm not quite sure what was the last thing you heard.
Well, you can just start over because you got muted quite early in your statement.
All right, so I'm saying that I am a grandmother, I am a mother, and I have a 6-year-old foster son. And all 3 sets of parenting have been very different and have been challenging in different ways. The question that you've asked is, good parenting can be seen, what is good parenting all about? And I say good parenting can be seen in the results. Yeah. So if at the end of the day, you have a child who has become a functional citizen, a worthwhile citizen, who is making a meaningful contribution, who obeys the laws of the land, who is service-driven, who is a global citizen, then you have done a good job as a parent. And some people will say, but I know that I am a good parent. But there's this one child that seems so out of line, so different. And I know it is not a one-size-fits-all strategy. And someone told me, one of my own personal coaches said, a child comes into your life to teach you something. And that has made a whole new difference. For us teachers there, it means that we've been placed on this earth to learn a lot of things, not necessarily to teach a lot of things. A child comes into your life to teach you something. So as a parent, it is that self-evaluation and self-reflection that is going to help you to understand. So rather than getting all frustrated about this child, it is, what is it that I need to learn? What is it that this child is teaching me? It is important as a parent that you know that you have been given this precious, phenomenal gift, this child. And this child has been given to you because God knows that you are capable. He knows that you can do it. He knows that you can raise a child effectively to become that superstar. So it is important as a parent to look at who you are first. You cannot give what you do not have. So you have to recognize as a parent, first of all, that you are worthy, that you are capable, and that you can do this. And then you can transmit that to a child. In order to raise a child who is compassionate and empathetic and honest, you yourself have to be that. It's not just show that, you have to be that within yourself. And you will now find that your children will adopt those principles. Any challenge that somebody's saying they're not hearing at all. Are we hearing? Principal Little, are you hearing?
He's not connected to his audio, so he won't hear you. And she should be hearing now. And as a matter of fact, I think he's in the wrong meeting too. Go ahead, Mrs. Campbell.
So good parenting involves looking within. We can't give what we do not have. So we ourselves have to be compassionate to ourselves. We have to be honest to ourselves. We have to be loyal to ourselves in order for us to even show that and share that with another child, with anybody else. So the challenge that we're picking up with any one of our children, we have to look at, what is this that this child is wanting me to learn? And when we flip it like that, we find that we're not half as distressed in our lives, because it means that there's something within us that needs to grow and learn and change. Good parenting has to do with seeking help. If we find that we are floundering, if we are not getting the results we want, seeking help. Good parenting involves connecting with a higher source. And I'm not talking if you're a Christian or a Muslim or so on. It's recognizing that there is a spiritual side to parenting, and you need to connect with that in order for you to be a meaningful and worthwhile person. I am going to stop there and give other persons the opportunity to just talk, and then I'll come back.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Campbell. And you know, being a mother, grandmother, foster mother, I think you have quite a wealth of experience and information can share. But I hear you say that good parenting is in the results first and foremost. What about those children or those parents who have gone above and beyond, but yet their children don't turn out to be the model citizen that we thought or that we expected them to be? Can I get somebody else's input on that? Does anybody care? Mrs. Little, what is your take on that? So you send your children to school, they go to Sunday school, they go to church, but by the time they reach, 15, 16, fourth form, fifth form, you get called around school back smoking, pants start drop on the bottom, no longer want to go to church, but within yourself, you know that you did what you should have done, what you ought to have done, and what was expected of you. So I'll hear from Mrs. Little, and then Mr. Cowan will give his take on that.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Good morning, sorry. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning to all those who will be listening and those who are listening. I'm going to start with this adage. If the child did not learn, the teacher did not teach. If the child did not learn, the teacher did not teach. Why is it not the same in the situation of the parents? So I'm going to apply the same thinking. Something went wrong. You put in the effort, or you work, you put in some energy, you did something, but what was it? What should have been done? Was it the best thing? Was it the best course of action, the best strategies? Were they the guiding principles and guidelines and policies and moral values? Were they the right ones that were inculcated? Were they inculcated at the right time? Because timing is everything in parenting. Because after a certain age, you can beat up your chest, you can try to parent. You're probably wasting your time after a certain stage. So we have to start from early. And we have to understand what are the needs, psychological, emotional, social, physical, all of these things, right? Spiritual needs that must be fulfilled, and who are the persons that are supposed to do that, and what are the ways, what are the means by which we can accomplish these things. So if the foundation is set, and if we are consistent, and we keep at it, the result is going to be satisfying. It may not be exemplary. It may not be exemplary, but it definitely will be satisfying, satisfactory. You should see some good results. But if you're just doing, if every man get up and form them own laws and do them own thing and go by what they think they should be, then you're going to find that they're going to be chaos and things will not work the way that they should. But there are some core values that guide society, that guide our lives, that guide the rearing of children. And if as parents, we understand what those are and we work hard and we work together with all the other agencies and all the other persons that are to be a part of the parenting process, then we will get satisfactory results. And in some cases, exemplary results. In many cases, rather, exemplary results.
Mr. Cowan, let us hear your take on it. So if the child didn't learn, the child didn't perform, it's your fault. Let's hear you, Mr. Cowan. What say you?
You know, as a concise Oxford, yes, Oxford Dictionary defines a parent as a father or a mother, but I think it takes more than that to be a parent. A parent has to be someone who makes sacrifices. Don't care, you'll be in the mood to achieve a lot of goals and objectives. I agree. You want to achieve things in the future from your children. However, I think it takes more than that, where you only want to achieve goals or objectives. I think you have to make sacrifices, and there are times when you make sacrifices and you still do not achieve what you want to achieve as a parent. Because a lot of times I see a lot of people make sacrifices based on experience, and yet still the outcome of their children do not seem appealing. Okay, so as a parent, you have to willing to make sacrifices. So therefore, I think that's an integral part of being a parent. Okay, miss?
Okay,
that's my take on it.
All right, okay then. So we get to understand that good parent is, yes, go ahead.
Could I just add to what Mr. Cohen said? And oftentimes we think of sacrifice as being almost
Monetary.
negative. No, and negative too. But when we look at the definition of, well, my definition of sacrifice is giving up something for a higher return. So giving up something for a higher return for my child to be better is a greater good, a greater thing, rather than seeing it as a painful thing. Yes,
okay,
so I really agree.
I get you.
Yes.
All right, but though what you are giving up as the parent may be painful to you, it may not necessarily be a physical pain, but the fact that you are giving up something that is probably desirable to you or something, it can be painful. It can in fact be painful, but because it is for the greater good, the pain would be interpreted as minimal and necessary. So, you know, sometimes they talk about necessary evil, but in this case, a necessary pain. All right. We have with us Kayan Peters, a student of grade 6, and I think Kayan has an item for us. So just to break just a bit, let us hear from Kayan. Are you ready, Kayan?
Yes, miss.
Okay, go ahead. You may begin, Kayan.
Okay, miss.
No, but it will show up. Oh, put it over there, sir. Please, thanks.
What a parent is. Being a parent is being there through the tantrums, the milestones, and the tears. Being a parent means that you love that little person which you created more than you could ever love yourself or anybody else. You'd readily lose sleep to comfort them from their nightmares. You would risk your own life for that small person. You'd surely die to save them if you needed to. Being a parent is never a burden. It's loving someone wholeheartedly and unconditionally for eternity. Being a parent to your child is not a job. It's a privilege. Cherish it.
Kayan made some pertinent points there, though there was a little feedback. I'm sure we got it. One of the things I got, that being a parent is not a job.
Yeah.
A job is something for which you have an option. Because I can decide this morning to get up and not go to my job. I can decide this morning that I want to quit my job. I can decide this morning I want to change my job.
Yes.
But being a parent is not a job. You can't decide to quit. You can't decide to change. You can't decide not to show up. It is one of those things in our lives that we have to show up every single time. And by showing up, I don't necessarily mean being there with your face or being there bodily, but showing up emotionally, psychologically, mentally, financially, physically. I can't decide this morning that, okay, all right, John is no longer my child today because he got a detention yesterday. I can't give up on that. Being a parent, she said, is a privilege. It's not something that because you did a particular activity, I realize we have some children, that you somehow become a parent. Being a parent is something that should be held in one of the highest esteems. Thank you very much, Kayan, for that reminder. And I hope that somehow if it would have been if we weren't having so much feedback, but I'm sure that I can probably ask Kayan to record that for us and we send it out to the parents. All right, Mrs. McFarlane, as an educator, what do you think is the primary aim of parenting education? And first and foremost, what is parenting education and what should be the purpose, the goal, the aim of parenting education?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I listened to Kayan and I was smiling to myself with that last part that she said, being a parent is a privilege. And some persons might listen to that and say it's such an oxymoron to say that. But the good parent will know what it means by being a privilege. No, parenting education. Initially, when we started, we said there's no manual, nothing to show what to do. And I remember going to clinic and I saw some very young girls, far younger than my age, there waiting on prenatal care. And I thought to myself, but these young ladies are children themselves. Who is there to educate them about what to do? But parenting education, it's wide, it's very wide, and it's something that you never stop learning because each step of the way, each phase of the journey, you learn something new every single day. You learn from yourself, you learn from the child or children, you learn from the mistakes that you make, you learn from others around you. And the grandparents, the parents, the support system really is where you're going to get education from. The support system is definitely needed for parents, whether it's going to be first-time parent or not. And it doesn't matter how often you become a parent, it doesn't matter how many children you have, there is always something new to learn. There's something you never did know before. And it comes up and you're gonna have to say, Lord, but me never did go through this with the other child, or I did not in my days see this. And these are the things that I'm wondering about. And I heard Mrs. Campbell mention that she's a grandmother, and grandparents then and grandparents now are two totally different sets of people. So grandparents now, they're very protective of their children, and they don't want anything to do them. Remember, they would rough their child or children, but you can't speak hard, you can't speak in any harsh tone to their grandchildren now, So the education part of it is going to come from the network, the support network that is around you. It's going to come from the school. And a lot of times, parents will disregard their role and they will force it upon the school. But we have to remember that every single where that you go, you're going to, the parenting, the education is there, right? You're going to be, so these children, they not only learn from what's going on, what they get from the parents, right? They not only learn from what goes on at church, and it's the same thing with the parents. How do you learn to be a parent? So it's the on-the-job learning that you're gonna have to do. It's the training that you get while you are doing it, and you pick up on things as you go on. You look at success stories, you read books, and you try to get all these things in that will make your child, your children, better individual so that the future can be happy.
All right, so we're hearing from Mrs. McFarlane that parenting education is just about all those values that you pass on to your children to make them the worthwhile, productive citizens that they are. And the parenting education cannot be garnered or gotten from one place. So you get it from church, you get it from grandma, you get it from your co-workers, you even get it from the children themselves. And as you talk about, you know, these grandchildren now being different. When I was growing up, my father, when you got your dinner, you finish eat and then you get something to drink. The cup, the plate, not on the table at the same time. But now I see my father with his grandson, then no, give him anything to drink. And I'm saying to my brother, you remember say when we little, daddy, we could have not even water, you know. You have to finish eat because you must not eat and drink. But yet, here is my little nephew, if you don't give him anything to drink with it. And you know, sometimes we say, like, I mean, is this the same person that we grew up with where you couldn't even stand up at the gate? So, you know, I guess, you know, over time with the experiences, their outlook too are different. And as Mrs. McFarlane rightly said, you learn from your mistakes. Not that eating and drinking is what I'm advocating for, but you learn, you know, and you make certain kind of changes. And Mr. Cowan, you parent two children. So let's say child A and B, they are twins. They get the same education, same values in the same Sunday school class, but one turn out not so ideal. What is it then? Is it a case where based on child A, who is not so good by societal standards, you're not a successful parent, but based on child B, you're a successful parent? So tell me, what do you think determines who a successful parent is? Or what makes a successful parent? Does it have anything to do with how the children turn out? Tell me, what are your thoughts on that? What makes a successful parent?
Okay, let me make myself comfortable. All right, a successful parent has a lot of attributes to that person. The person has to be intrinsically motivated. The person has to show love, caring. The person has to be a part of the family. The person has to be family oriented. You cannot be a successful parent without you put your family first. So therefore, you have to take in consideration the family. All right? Never be mean, spiteful, or unkind. Always show respect, especially in the presence of your family. In that case, those factors will enforce you or push you to be a good parent or even be a better parent than even the parents that you seem to be good parents. Okay, so therefore, those are attributes that a good parents should contribute.
All right. So he's saying that a successful parent has many attributes to it. Miss Ewers, what do you say? What is your take on that? Is there any one attribute that outweighs the other, or any two that should have more weight or more bearing?
Okay, all right.
What do you take? What is your take on that, Miss Ewers?
Good morning,
Good
everyone.
morning.
Good. I want to greet Principal Little and Madam Moderator Beulah, my colleague parents and my colleagues in education, and also my colleague Lieutenant Governor Campbell, my fellow Kiwanian. Pleasant morning, and to all
Yeah, I
others
told you
who
you
are
were
listening up.
related.
What makes a successful parent? I don't think one quality would outweigh another because you need all of those in different situations. So you want a sense of independence for your children. You also want a sense of them having that kind of responsibility, but you can't weigh responsibility heavier than being independent. So you need all of those traits in order for them to survive, to be functional, because you're not going to need all in one situation. They might have to be deliberating in making a decision, in what choice do I make? How do I make this right choice? And as I heard you mention the scenario with A child and B child, you're the same parent, but different outcome in one of those children. And you're saying, boy, no, well, we can't define that parent as a bad parent anymore. But can you define that parent as a good parent? Because one child would come out as the ideal and another as not the ideal. So what went wrong, as Mrs. Littlewood said, what went wrong? Sometimes it's just the decision that they make at a certain level when you would have win them to a point, because you can't not be a parent, you know. You're a parent for life. Even if your children live to see 100, you're going to be 100 and odd. So you're a parent for life. They're still coming back to say mommy. They're still coming back to say daddy. And they're still coming back to say auntie for those persons who would have taken that kind of level of caring for children. So you're doing this job for life, or I should say you're having this privilege for life. So no one trait outweighs another. They are going to need, you as a parent will need those traits in different situations. But how do I know that I am successful at it? Because sometimes, you know, I've heard the example of a parent sometimes saying to the child, tell him seminar dear, or tell her seminar dear. But yet still you are teaching the child something else. Be honest, be fair, you know, and later on that child going to put it back on you. Later on it's going to come back. So there's a dichotomy sometimes between what we say and what we do. And we don't realize until something goes wrong, very wrong. And the child, if they are brave enough, if you teach them to stand up and be brave enough, they will tell you. But you remember when you tell me to tell Auntie Jane Semina dear, the child in essence is really saying, you shouldn't have done that because you would have taught otherwise. And after children realize that what you say is going so different from what you do, there is the lack of confidence in you as a parent. And when the worst thing is for a child to lose confidence in their parents. It's important that a child is confident, has that confidence in their parents.
Yes, that's so true.
As a parent, you must project that kind of confidence in your child to say, and get them involved in the decision making, not just wait until they're 18. You can't wait until they're 18 for them to begin to make decisions. You have to expose them within the household. And sometimes they're not going to make it so right. I have 2 boys and I go to the supermarket with them. And sometimes when they have certain amount of money and they see all those pretty dandan that they want, they spend the money and they come home now negotiating with me to buy something else. I said, no, it can't work. You had that choice. What if I went into that supermarket and buy all that I wanted or all that I saw? It wouldn't have worked out. So that's a part of it. You see, next time when you go back to that supermarket, You hear them saying, or they go with their pen and paper or the pencil and paper. They said, oh, I'm going to discuss this. I'm going to buy this. No, you can't buy this because if you buy this, I'm not going to have any more money. I feel proud as a parent when I see that happening because they are learning. They are learning. So you must give them some leverage in the home. You must allow them to make some decisions that is fitting to their developmental level. I didn't say their age. I said their developmental level, because their developmental level can be above
or below the age.
So having that intuitiveness is important as a successful
Yes.
parent. You must know your child. You must know your children, and they are different. So it's not one size. The bigger one that didn't give you any trouble, that your firstborn, and you love your firstborn so much because your firstborn did not give you any trouble. And this one coming up is like raging storm. And you always do that comparison and say, but you don't know that that raging storm that you're seeing there has a direction to go. A different direction from your firstborn was so quiet and nice because your first one was the only child there. What had you expected? And sometimes some parents don't even bother to play. So your firstborn must be quiet most of the times. But the one that is coming up with all the noise and everything in the house, come on now, man. Come on, cut some slacks for them. And guess what? If you are not careful with them, they go into seclusion. They go into that sense of seclusion because and another thing is that you compare them. If you are if you speak it in front of them to say,
no,
oh,
worse if you
Lord,
compare them with other
that.
children outside of the home. Oh my.
But outside is bad and not bad, you know. But when you do it in the home, it's nearer to them, it's closer to their heart.
Yes.
It's a heart and heart thing for them when you do it in their home. What you're saying as a parent in essence is that I love my firstborn more than you because my firstborn don't give any trouble. And they take that with them for a long time. Some people never forgive their parents for that. They never do. And some of the repercussions, sad to say, and unfortunately, when you see them grow up and they don't look back on their parent, and you say, what a wicked child.
Yes.
And you don't know the root that has grown into that big tree. Sometimes it's somebody sitting with them. Some people get to overcome. Some people get to speak to say, listen, while I was growing up, this is all you did to me. And it manifested in this manner. So you must be very, very intuitive as a parent. You must know what is happening. You must know when there's a twist and turn in a child, even that child that you know so well. Sometimes because of their stage, they reach the high school level, there are changes, they have other influences, heavy influences too. You have to pay attention to that. And we are not forgetting the importance of prayer and fasting. You're not forgetting that when something seems so very high, when the mountain is there in the midst of you, when they reach to that stage and you can't seem to understand how is it that it's this child. I can't understand. Don't forget, Nice City is right there.
Yes, man. Jesus said these things only come about by prayer and fasting.
Important. So successful parenting. It's not one size fits all, because remember, our children are not the same. I can only give you stories, not best practices, because they may not be the best for you.
For you, yes.
Practices, successful practices. It's successful for me, I'm saying, but try it and see if it works.
If it will for you.
It might not be the best for you, depending on your situation. So being successful is dependent on many, many things. Where you live, how you function, what you have to do. A parent in a crime-ridden area will have to operate differently from us who are easing and sitting back right now and relaxing.
In the countryside, yes.
It's a different thing. Someone in the countryside, it is different. So it depends on your space, your environment, all of that.
And as you mentioned that, a parent in a crime-ridden area who grows a child who is not a criminal is a successful parent.
Might I tell you?
So,
Of
but and
course.
then now the parent who grows up maybe in a poverty-stricken area whose child becomes a doctor is also a successful parent, but the
Yes.
successes are different. Okay, all right.
Having the amenities doesn't guarantee success, you know. Having all the amenities doesn't guarantee the success. What it means is that it's a little more convenient, because sometimes we get carried away as parenting, just providing, and not pulling the quality away from that. So you find that some parents just say, a child just said, oh, mommy, I want a PS4. Oh, mommy, I want a that. Oh, mommy. And because they know, oh, yes, mommy can afford it. And you do it. But guess what? You never spend one day yet to spend even one little game with them on the PS4. Yes. Not even one time you sit down with them with it. So you buy all these things, but you don't even participate. The meaning part of it, you would have done the provision part of it, but the meaningful side of it, you would not have started as yet. They grew up with these things. And when they grow up and have their own relationships and you want to tell them what to do, they rally back on you. And they tell you the things that you used to do. Yes. So we have to be careful. We have to be careful.
Yes, Mrs. Campbell.
Interjection. So I did tell you that I have an adult son who is grown, so the firstborn, and he had the opportunity of being around grandparents who helped. So it took a village. And then I have my foster son who is 6. And I tell you, I've been principal of primary school, principal of high school, and this challenge is greater than all of those. How do you as an educator deal with the whole idea of your little 6-year-old saying, I hate school, I hate school. And he's around the books, he's around everybody reading, and yet I hate school. And so you now have to look at what is it that is going on in his head? What is it that he likes to do? And you're going to create those opportunities for him now to understand why it is important to go to school. And little by little, gradually infusing a lot of praise, a lot of incentives to have him want to learn. The whole idea of giving him rein with his imagination to create, because you recognize that he's quite a brilliant child and he uses imagination a lot. So I allow him that space to create and to do. And even when I'm pulling up everything and pulling up the machinery, I say, okay, we'll find a way to fix it. allow him to grow and to show him the way, you know, and he will come with things like, I have no need to fear because God is always with me. So you get that, he recognizes the strength of who he is as a person, and the whole lot of prayer, the prayer city, you know, going down on your knees is tremendously important during this time.
All right, thank you. So my key takeaway from Ms. Yours, as teachers, we like this term about best practices, but you know, she said importantly, as parents, there are no best practices but successful practices, and that really resonated with me. And it brought me to this point when she talked about, you know, giving the gifts, that as parents sometimes we substitute the PRESENTS for the PRESENCS. So never you try to substitute the PRESENTS, that's the gifts, for your PRESENCS, for being there. All right, online with us, we have Mrs. Malika Sinclair Bailey, and she's going to grace us with her beautiful voice. So, Mrs. Malika, you are up.
Morning. Good morning. Yes, I had to change position. My office is being used with the Wi-Fi, so I'm in my car. I'm using my data now, but we understand that we have to celebrate ourselves as parents. As a mother of three different personalities. One is 23, one is 14, and one is 12. Three different personalities, and we are talking about the strength this morning that we need to nurture, especially the last one, as I heard Madam Principal said a while ago. The last one, I don't know, tend to be quite different. I'm not understanding, but with God, He will help us through. In your moments of fear, through many pain, many tears, there's a God who's been faithful to me. When my strength was all gone, when my heart had no song, still in love, God's been faithful to me. Every word He's promised is true. What I thought was impossible, I've seen my God do. He's been faithful, faithful to me. Looking back, His love and mercy I see. In my heart, I have questioned, even failed to believe, but God's been faithful, faithful to me. He's been faithful. God's been faithful. He's been faithful. God's been faithful. Faithful when your heart looked away. The many times you could not pray. Still in love, God's proof faithful to you. The days you spend so selfishly reaching out for what pleased you. Still in love, God's been faithful to you. Every word His promise is true. What we thought was impossible, oh, we've seen our God do. He's been faithful, faithful to us. Looking back, His love and mercy you've seen. No, in your hearts you have questioned, even failed to believe, but God's been faithful, faithful in our hearts. We have questioned, even failed to believe, but God's been faithful, faithful to me. He's been faithful. He's been faithful. God's been faithful. He'll be faithful. Faithful to you.
Amen.
Amen. Have a wonderful one.
Amen.
Thank you,
Awesome,
Mrs.
awesome,
Bailey, and
awesome,
have a good
awesome.
one yourself. God has indeed been faithful to us, because some of those mistakes we made as parents or are making as parents, because none of us are perfect. We don't always get it right. If God wasn't faithful, oh my gosh, what would have been the outcome? So thank you, Mrs. Bailey, for reminding us how faithful God is to us, for keeping us as parents, as individuals, and for allowing our children to be surviving and doing their utmost, especially during this pandemic. Thank you so much. And we wish you all the best for the rest of the day. I know that you have to go. So thanks again. Online with us, we have Chairman of our school board, Pastor Miguel Baker, and we also have Principal of Rosemount Primary and Infant. She's Miss Swaby, right? I'm trying
No,
to remember. Let me not.
Sinclair Bailey. Sinclair Bailey. She just stands. She just
no,
stands.
I thought it was another person. Yes, Mrs. Bailey. She's a principal of Rosemount Primary and Infant. I was looking at another Mrs. here. So thank you, Mrs. Bailey. Now, Pastor Baker, I know that you are a man of the cloth and you're also a parent. How do you know that you are an effective parent? I know your children are all grown, and I know that you believe you are an effective parent, but how do you know? I may be on the outside looking in and say, you know, I want to be a parent like Pastor Baker. But tell me, how would I know that I'm an effective parent? How do you know that you are an effective parent?
Good morning, Mrs. Beulah.
Good morning, Pastor Baker.
Mrs. Little. Mrs. McFarlane. And let me not go through all the names because I might slip and then somebody holds me in layer of guilt. And I don't want that to happen. So let me just greet everyone online, all our parents and all our teachers, especially those that are parents. I know somebody may be preparing to become a parent, but the question here, let me greet you all this morning in the wonderful name of Jesus. There is no other name I could choose among the great names that we know to greet you in, but this all-saving name, this all-knowing name, this all-powerful name, the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior of the world. In spite of the crisis the world is in this morning, Jesus is still the way and the only way out of our situations. Let me look at the point in reference here today in regard to as Mrs. Beulah asks, how do I know the fact that I'm an effective parent? Of course, I am a bold, and if I feel that way, right? That not only that I feel lofty and feel proud as a father and a parent, part of one who equally we have grown 4 children. And We have been encouraged. We feel that we live a healthy life because it results in our behavior and our attitude. This was constantly throughout the developing of these children. And so I can talk with that proud and blessing from God who give us the courage to foster these. We have actually and I heard what you said. I didn't know that you know so much about us and that we have gotten 4 children. The first is now approximately, and I said approximately because the 12th of December will be our 40 years of marriage or togetherness between me and my wife. And our first child is approximately 39. And you know, women don't like when you release their name, their age. And I know she's not one that takes things easy. So I'm asking all of you, don't let she know that I informed you.
He's
of her
online,
age.
Pastor.
Please, 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 please erase that part if you can.
All
If you
right, I
can't, then I
see.
have to take the beating. I have to take the beat. You know how it goes, spirit, right? No, the second is like 36 years of age. And the first is also a manager presently, a graduate from UTech, and has worked in the capacity of a business administration. She got a scholarship to that university. And the second did so well in school. She was one of the top students at Mineralites in their reading and such lights. She's now a manager at Infinity in Montego Bay and doing very well. The third is 33. You notice they're moving in 3 years apart from each other because we planned that. She is now a graduate student at the University of Tennessee, and she's doing extremely well as well. In fact, my wife is now there with her. The fourth is my only son, who is 29 years of age. And he's also a graduate of University of Technology. And he's married and now living in England. So you can see that among them, only one have not given me a grandchild as yet, and that is the boy, the son. He's now married, so I can look forward for a grandchild anytime. They are still pursuing their education rather. So just in a nutshell, that's why I am so encouraged. That's why I am felt so blessed. My grandson is approximately 15 years of age and he's living with me. The others are granddaughters, they're the 2. So I just use that in a nutshell to bring to you a thought that I have in respect to effective parenting. It is not something that really we can sit back and boast so much about all the goodies that I spoke about. sometimes it takes real courage when you have to go out and work. And at the same time, you have to find that time, that real time to sit with your kids and see what and how they are doing. And there are times also that you must separate from every other thing to play some games with them. Let them feel happy, let them feel free to say anything that they want to say to you. These are some of the things that I think help to mold these kids in the person they are. To be effective, we also need to recognize that there are sometimes when we'll see these children becomes very difficult in their behavior. And difficult times sometimes takes an input from parents. We are not perfect, and we too make errors, and we must underline those in effective parenting, that the child also will make difficult errors in their life, even though they are taught properly. It is natural. Sometimes we say the wrong thing. Sometimes we make some seriously wrong choices. But in our plans of developing, especially goals, we need to set goals that are real, effective. We should aim those goals to that which holds that child accountable, that makes that child become responsible. It will equip and make positive impact in their future. At this point, you may not be able to, are not there with them, but your presence will always be with them, especially when you set rules and enforce those rules. Effective parents set rules at homes, rules that have boundaries, and keep the child in a balanced state. I want to say that I am a man of a lot of things that's set up for me. And so sometimes, I dropped into some hot seat. But effective parents recognize that the child may sometimes break the rules, but the consequence, you must not give them that flexibility to get away with. You must point it out to them. You should not make too many rules. And if you make rules, make sure that you enforce them. But you must always be flexible based on the given situation. I always said to my workers, being in various areas in managerial aspect at the company I work with for many years, I always said to them, I will be always been a fair person, but don't mess with me when it comes towards my firmness. And I have experience it not just using those what we call tough stuff or hard stuff at home, but also at work, but also at home. And I use an experience that I have. When my first daughter was playing around and would not hold on to ensure she has the ability, when she left Glenmuir, went to Knox, and when I went up to Knox, I did not like what I saw. And so at that time I was teaching at Veer. So, and I was also working at Jamal because sometimes I wear many hats. And while I was there, parent, I had to make rough and tough decision. I had a friend, he's now a deceased, but he was one person reported to me at the time in a meeting. And so while I was there at Veer, I came in the office one evening and I actually run her out because, just become a pastor. And when you become a pastor, you get so holy and so religious, and, rules, you don't allow nothing to go because you want to look nice because everybody, and you're holy and you're righteous, them kind of thing. You don't even forget about the children, that they are not pastors. You don't even realize that maybe they don't even get saved, and maybe they don't even thinking about what you are thinking about, God and all that. And you want them to be more holy than you are, to show that, you are such a good parent. So I run her out the yard because she put her nail polish on her finger, and she put it on her toe and wear this little short dress and them kind of things. I'm just being practical.
Yes.
And when I went up there and I saw her, I paid about, at that time, about $8,000 per month for you to board at this place. And you doing that and know that you were on choir when you're at church. I went home and sweep up everything off the dresser and mash them up. But those were some of the heroes, great heroes that I made but there are good comes out of it. And I went to Mrs. Bryan and I said, Mrs. Bryan, I want to remove my daughter to here. So I went for the release and I wouldn't get the release. Mrs. Bryan said, I will take her until she get the release. And I came down, and Brother Sal said to me, said, Brother Baker, when we sit down there, I tell him what we do, or what the child, like I would be telling, And he said, all who come and I can tell man, say, you don't want them to get saved. When you are Satan, a fight if you take care of the child, and the picnic they fight Satan too. And now you left the picnic alone, run him out, give Satan. So what you expect? I get up out of the office and I jump in my car and I run down to my sister where she was, and I picked up the child and I came back to the office in the evening and I sat down, and Brother Sal said, Brother Baker, what happened? He said, so me go for the picnic and can't come here. So that man gets sealed. He went to church. That was a Friday evening. He went to church the Saturday and he got baptized. And he came back Monday morning and told me that we get saved. I said, why? He said, because of what you do. Because Mary called the daughter. Mary was in the same problem I have up there. And I did the same thing that you did. And that is why I answer you so rough. And when I see you make that move, I realize you love that child. I just use that to show you. And she is the first I learned in Vertec who got 5-1 in mathematics. Me and my wife was recognized at the Jamaica Mutual, Life of Jamaica, for such contribution she made at that time in the Caribbean. So I just say this to say that sometimes we need to take the level at a very harsh and tough decision at time. Coming out of it, you will get the good. So effective parenting begin with effective communication. Even when the child are just learning how to even talk, they benefit from the conversation. We must always talk to or picnic them when they're young, even when they're in a belly. Talk to them. The longer the conversation you have with a child, is the more benefit they get from it. It also teach them about social skills and imagination. It brings them into a regular conversation later on. I would encourage and implore all of you that are here this morning. I may have taken up so much of your time, but I want us to understand that our children really need us.
Yes, yes.
And when they leave your home and they're gone on their own, they will always, and I use the term always, remember you in their steps that they take in life. A child who reads frequently will have a greater understanding of some grammatical structures and strong imagination, not to mention a wealth of facts that are at their disposal. You, as parents, together with your children, not just send them in relation to dealing with time, but the time you spend with your child should be quality time. Give them the privilege to go and play when there is time for playing. But when there's time for you to have fun with them and there's time for their lessons, make them separate. Allow the child to face challenges. I don't have one of my children around me because I recognize that adversity builds character. But that doesn't mean it's easy to watch your child struggle. There will be situations where your child needs help. Explain to your child something despite the hard work. Explain, encourage your child, always continue to improve their skills and their in hard work. And finally, parent, to be effective, you have to start from an early age. Even a 2-year-old, teach them how to make choices, because these choices will help the child to make positive decisions. I am at New Langsville, and I will not be there for too long. I'm also at the school, and I've seen some level of improvement Mrs. Little had to what we have seen there before. And I looked at every child and I respect every child. It is in my heart to help to grow the child in the way of the Lord. It is a part of my parenthood. As the Bible refers to train up the child in the way he should go. And you don't have to have a problem later on because you have displayed unconditional love. May the Lord bless you today. May his grace shine upon you. And importantly, And most importantly, love your children and teach them to love God. God bless you. Thank you, Ms. Beulah.
All right, Pastor Baker, well said, well said. And you know, when he started talking, first of all, I recognize the similarities in what he said versus what Mrs. Campbell said. Pastor Baker was not on when Mrs. Campbell was speaking. Mrs. Ewers, so we realized that there are common significant elements to parenting that would make you effective, successful, and positive. And Pastor Baker said to be an effective parent, you have to set rules. That's the first thing. You establish boundaries. You communicate. And even though you do everything that's right, your children will make errors. They will make mistakes, not because you're a bad parent, but that is when you step in now to show that errors have consequences. You can't allow them to just get away. Nobody say you're going to murder them. And sometimes some of the way you apply the consequences, you can err too. But you too recognize that and fix it. Fix it. And because of the way he dealt with his daughter, it allowed somebody quite unintentional of him to get saved. And so the things that we do not only impact our children, but those who are looking on. So we have to be careful of the things that we do. And in this time, not just for Parent Month, we are always parenting. And can I tell you, you even parent other parents based on the things that they see you do. Thank you, Pastor Baker. And don't forget that you are to be flexible. Not flexible that, you know, you're going to allow them to do as they please. But sometimes the situation dictates that, you know, you have to do something else, but always remember, bring them back on the straight and narrow. Thank you, Pastor Baker, for your contribution to that. And so to be an effective parent and to be a successful parent, you must start out somewhere. You must have a plan in mind. And I'm going to pose this question to Mrs. Parry. She's also a parent and she's a teacher. What do you think are some of the goals that we should have as parents in order to be effective and successful? You must start out somewhere. You must have a vision. You must have a plan. So what are your goals as a parent and what should be the goals of parenting and parenthood? Mrs. Parry.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Mrs. Parry.
As Mrs. Beulah said, I am a proud parent. I have 2 boys, 2 girls, and their ages range from 21 to 5. So I am finding out that what I did with my 21-year-old when she was 5, this one is completely different. And I have to be learning again how to be a parent. I will slap him and he will say to me, "Mommy, you don't love me anymore." I didn't used to get that from a 21-year-old and knew that, yes, you did something wrong, or I did something wrong. So I have to try to do things differently. And so my goals as a parent, first of all, it is my goal for my children to be well adjusted, to be happy, to contribute positively to society in the future and to the world. I want them to be self-sufficient. I want them to be independent. And one of my major goals, I want them to be educated. Or if the education is not working out, because you know children are different, there will be some that will be good academically. And if there is one that is not so good, well, he or she must have a skill to live on for life. Because I don't want him or her to become an adult and be a problem to society. You must be contributing. And I can say that this is what I learned from my father. My father, he was not very educated. And he told us from I was a child, he said to me, or to us, make sure you get an education. And he worked at it. He made sure he sent us all to school. And there is one brother that was not so academically inclined, but what? He has a skill. He can make a very beautiful table set or furniture, whatever. In fact, he works a lot more money than I do, okay? Because my father made sure that he has a skill to live by, even though he's not as educated as we are. So that's one goal that every parent should have. Make sure that your child can live, can contribute to society, will not be a menace to others when he or she is an adult. And that's about it, Mrs. Beulah.
All right. I mean, that's a lot because I have here that as a parent, you should make it a goal that your children become educated. And educated did not necessarily mean book work, but educated in terms of getting a skill, something. You
Life
should
skills.
also have a goal to make your child be well adjusted to society and to be a contributing member to society. So even though Mrs. Parry may not have spoken at length like Pastor Baker, I'm sure it is quite to the point and succinct that we get it. Make your picnic get one education, make them be well adjusted, and let them become a positive contributing member to society. That was well said. Now I'm going to invite some of our parents from school to participate in our discussion now. Mr. Osborne, there's an African saying that says it takes a village to raise a child, meaning you can't do it by yourself. Tell us some of the people who are in your support group, or rather who should be in your support group in terms of raising your child. Who are some of the people who can contribute to helping you to let your child or children become who you want them to be in the future? You're muted.
Good morning,
Good morning,
Morning,
Mr.
sir.
Madam, Madam Principal, Madam Moderator, esteemed panel. All right, and first thing first, first person to be in a circle as a part of a village to grow a child is Jesus. You understand? Because based upon how the world is going today, if a child don't have Jesus, it's very difficult for that child to move ahead in life. You understand? Because a child can do one thing before you, and then behind is a total different child. So you have to grow them with the fear of God first. First thing first, you have to grow them with the blessing of God. Like how the old time people in the Bible used to bless their children. I learned to bless my child, or bless my children and not curse them. You understand? Encourage them when they do something that is wrong, to support them and to encourage them to do better. You understand? When they do something good, you reward them, not monetary, but reward them with a hug, with a kiss. You understand? Let them know that you're proud of them. Yes, person that are in my surrounding to help with my children. I have grandparents, I have teachers, I have uncles and aunts to help and instill discipline in the children. Because sometimes back in the days when a child go on the road and rude to an adult, that adult's supposed to can discipline a child and the parents be okay with it. But no, these days, if a person tell that a child is disobedient or don't have the manners on the road, more time want to cuss the person or tell you more than discipline the child. You understand? Because you say they don't like the child or such and such. If a teacher discipline a child, they want to go to school and curse the teacher and say the teacher have no right to do this, not right to do that. But at the same time, the child is learning what you're doing. You understand? And the child is holding on to that when he or she is indisciplined or he or she misbehave, they're going to have you to back them or to promote what they are doing that is negative. You understand? So in turn, that child become a menace to society. So in my circle, I have uncles, aunts, grandparents to help discipline a child. I have good teachers to help discipline my children. Yes, and I try my best and ensure that they understand certain things in life. I try my best to make them sure that they understand that put God first in everything you do. Yes, and put God first. You're going to the exam, you put God first, you talk to God first. If you're going to go on the road, you talk to God first and ask God to guide you going out and coming in. You know, it's burden with the fear of God.
All right, thank you so much. You notice the first thing Mr. Osborne mentioned, the fear of God. So in your village, you must have a church community, not necessarily a physical building because the church is within you. So you must have some spiritual, religious, Christian element in the village within which you grow your child. Grow them in the fear of the Lord. Extended family, grandparents, uncles, aunts, because they have gone the road before you. So they have some amount of experience that they can share with you. Have a relationship with your school, with the teachers, so that all those people within your village can help to contribute to the well-educated, well adjusted and contributing member of society. Mrs. Treasure, I know that you have 3 children and probably have some more in the pipeline coming there. Some days you can't bother, some days you're tired. What do you think about day off from parenting? Do you think that parents should have a day off? How do you manage the 3 of them? And how are things? Do you feel like taking a day off? Would you advocate for parents getting a day off? What say you?
Good morning. Miss, why you put that question to me, Miss?
Because I know you can contribute.
We don't get a day off. The fact of it is that we parents, no, we don't get a day off. It's our children. We had them, like me, from the womb, go straight back. So I don't get a day off. I wouldn't mind getting a day off. Anybody volunteering? I have 3 completely different boys, ages 13, 8, and 3. All 3 of them give trouble, Miss, but I have to, even when the going gets rough, I have to deal with each one to the way that they are personally, their personality, their character. Sometimes it make your head go wild, and like it, I say, oh my God, why did I have them? But then I remember that they're mine and I love them dearly, no matter what. I have to be the parent for them that they need. And like Miss, I want them to have something in society. I want to be somebody in society. So I have to keep pushing every day, every morning, every evening, every night, because I don't get a day off nor a night off either. So to the question, no, I don't think we should get a day off, but teachers do help. Can't wait for school open face to face for teacher.
So teacher have them for you all day.
For hours. Right now, my lander is getting ready to give Miss Tegan a little trouble in the classroom, which is.
We have always known that, Miss Treasure. We have always known that.
It's my time off. But because they're a blessing, I give thanks for every second of the time that I spend with them, and I try my best as a young parent to do the utmost. Only the best is good enough.
All right, thank you. Beulah's motto, only the best is good enough. So it's not just good enough for Beulah School, but as parents, you are to do your best. Mrs. Peters, you have 3 children. If you were to become any of your children, or should I put it this way, what do you think your children think of your parenting style? Do you think your parenting style is achieving what you set out to achieve, what you want to achieve? Do your children think that? What do you think your children would think of your parenting style? Are they proud to call you mommy when they become adults, or I know you have an adult child. When they're all adults, can they say that, yes, that's the type of parent I want to be, like how my mother was? Mrs.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. I'm juggling in and out of classes. I just barely hear my name called, and that's
All right, so I'm asking you, what do you think your children think of your parenting style? Do you think that how you are as a parent to them, that is how they would want to be as parents themselves?
All right, okay. I do think so. First of all, as Mr. Osborne said, I teach them the fear of the Lord. That's the first thing. We are saying that parenting does not come with a handbook, but you know what my handbook is? The Bible. The Bible is my handbook that I use to help raise my children. Now, growing up, you know, there are certain things that I would see my mother do, and it's like it's automatic. I emulate those parenting skills, and I pass them down to my children. When I look at how my mother grew me, he grew me in the fear of the Lord. And so I think it has done a whole heap of good in my life. And that is what I want to instill in my children. Yes, my children would think that sometimes I'm a bit too harsh or too rough.
Are miserable, they like that word, all of
yes,
us.
Yes, and miserable. But sometimes it's just tough love, right? And sometimes you have to get harsh and miserable with them. But then again, you have to balance it with being calm, soft, play with them, and let them know that, okay, I'm being harsh and miserable because I want the best for you. So I think my parenting skills, it can come with a much more improvement, you know, because sometimes we as parents, sometimes we do some things and we look back and we say, no, you shouldn't have done that. But when you can look back and make your corrections and wheel and come again and say, all right, I'm going to be better at it this time. So I do think my children will sometimes like my parenting skills. There's some of it that they would admire, or some of it that they would put aside. But you have to just guide them to be the best parent that they can be when it's their time to be a good parent.
All right, so Mrs. Peters alluded to the fact that there are some things that, you know, she probably would have done differently in hindsight. So I'm going to put this to Mrs. Campbell and Mrs. Little. You both have adult children. Are there things that you have done as parents where now you're looking back at it that you would have done differently? What specifically or what things do you think that, you know, it would have been better if I had done so and so, or if I hadn't done this or said this? Think of things that you think to us as younger parents, younger in terms of maybe our age-wise or younger in terms of our children's age. What are some of the things you think you could have or should have done differently that you can now pass on to us, the rest of us as younger parents, or just the parents in general, because even people with older children can also learn. So I'm putting this to Mrs. Little and Mrs. Campbell. What are some things that you would have done differently if you could?
After you, Mrs. Campbell.
You shouldn't do that to me, you know. Well, I think I could have played a little more with the adult one. He's grown up to be very serious. He's very focused and a workaholic, and I think, yes, you know, so
yes, the blinders.
And I have to be saying to him, you know, with his daughter, spend a little more time, you know, to play with her, because he's also so I think I could do a little better. So I'm trying to do that with this little one here now. I'm not quite sure how good I am at that. So I think just playing a little more, not being so serious in ensuring that they learn and they need to go to school and they need to pass the exams and you need to be a model citizen and so I think he's a little too stoic in his approach. So that whole idea of being able to cry and to show emotion and that kind of thing, because I think that was how I was raised too. You know, you toughen up and so on. So now I I think looking back, yeah, I could have done a better job there.
A little bit more playful, a little more lighter. Okay.
I think he's getting away with a little too much. So my husband said, you're spoiling him, but it is being very aware of what happened with the older one and trying now to let him use his imagination and so on. So, but it's striking a balance that is key. Yes.
Okay, Mrs. Little.
All right, thank you. I must confess, if I have to be honest, and I am going to be honest, I must confess I've had to apologize to my two older boys, especially the eldest of the three. Yes, the older of the two, I've had to apologize. And it seems as if for two particular, situations that would have happened many moons ago. And I still find that every time the conversation comes up around, they bring me back to certain things and I have to keep apologizing because they're not letting it go. And the point I'm making is when we err as parents, we hurt them in ways that it's not even easy for them to let go of, And so I definitely have some regrets, some aspect of parenting. I think I went into it too hard or too firm or too strict. And I realized a little too late that I never had to be as strict as I was, as you realize, as time would have evolved, you realize that the kind of children that you have don't necessarily need, or if you have different children, based on their personality and their behavior, you don't need that all the time, or you don't need too much of it, or you don't need to be that kind of parent. So, and that is coming from what I would have experienced as a child. So I would have adopted the kind of parenting that I would have received because I had a firm mother and a firm father. So I went into parenting with that kind of mindset. But it never had to be so. And so even as parents, we have to assess our own situation, our own context, and determine how we are going to parent and assess as we go along and make the changes so that it does not get to a point where we mar our children in certain ways. I also want to make the point that it takes a village to raise a child, yes, but I wish that in today's setting, more of the persons in the village who are aware of some of the things that are happening would speak up more, would reach out to me, for example, back then, if you knew that I was going off course or I was going too hard, to say to me, pull me aside and say to me, little, say, and straighten me out, give me some hints, give me a good talking to, because we all need that from time to time. And even now, the context may vary. It could be abuse that is happening in the home. It could be physically a child is getting too much flogging or too much verbal abuse. It could be that you suspect some kind of sexual abuse. Whatever the nature, we need to speak up more. Or persons who are aware or who are suspicious of certain more, because that's really what the village is for. And if you can't do it yourself, because you may not be the best person to do it, because you may not have the kind of relationship that will say you can come to me to talk to me about, find somebody who you know you can speak to, so that that person can speak to me, because I might be more receptive to a particular, person coming to me about something. But we have to do more. We have to communicate more, and we have to be open to allow other persons to come into our personal space, to come into and help to influence and impact our mindset. So, because ultimately, when we parent, it will impact generations to come. It will impact the society that all our children are going to live into, And so we might as well work together now so that we can get the result that will be satisfying futuristically.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Little. So, it is driving home the point that we do our best and we should do our best. But there are times when we do things we shouldn't, or there are things that we should do that we didn't do or that we don't do. But it's not the end of the world. Recognize it, acknowledge it, and try to make amends. And so in closing, I'm going to implore us to do not substitute the gifts, the PRESENTS, for the PRESENCE. Try to be parents who provide your children with an education. Try to develop them to be well-adjusted and to be contributing members of society. And in being effective parents, you are to set rules, establish boundaries, be good communicators, also being flexible, and more importantly, ensure that you raise your children in a village that is led by the Holy Spirit, that is God-driven, that is spiritual, and an extended family who is not afraid to say, come on, man, you need to pull up your socks, or you ought not to be doing so and so, or you should be doing so and so. And I want to leave those with you, these nuggets that we took away from our panel discussion today. There is no such thing as a best practice for parenting, but there are successful things, effective things that you can do to raise good, worthwhile, contributing citizens of tomorrow. And the children that you raise today will be those people who are raising their children tomorrow. And be mindful of what the future generation will look like, because what you do is what will determine what the future looks like. So I want to thank you all, our panel members, Mrs. Campbell, Miss Ewers, Pastor Baker, who had to go, Mrs. Parry, Mrs. McFarlane, Mr. Cowan, Mr. Osborne, and the other parents who chimed in, Galaxy A21S, George, Mrs. Treasure, Miss Wallace, for those of you who stayed with us until the very end. Thank you all. Remember, parenting is not a job, it's a privilege. And Mrs. Treasure said, yes, she can't wait for school open so she can get those couple of hours to cock up her foot, but the parenting never ends. You have no day off, you have no time off. You have to always show up. And parents, I wish the rest of November for you will be a beautiful parent month. And please join us later at 6 o'clock for an empowerment session. And I wish for you all a productive day, and thank you all.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. You did an excellent